It all started in high school. I was a naive, shy, and awkward 14-year-old when I asked this one guy to our school's Sadie Hawkins dance. I knew him from a mutual friend of ours, but we really didn't talk. All I knew was that we both liked anime and manga, and that he was kind of quiet most of the time. So I wanted to be nice and asked him to the dance. That was mistake number one that started the years of torment. He said yes, and we agreed that we would just meet at the dance with the rest of our friends. A few hours later, I got a message on Facebook from him, and it was a long message telling me that he always had a crush on me, that I was beautiful, and that he couldn't compare my beauty to anything else because he considered it an insult to how beautiful I was. It was pretty cringy, but at the end of it, he asked if I would be his girlfriend. I was uncomfortable after reading the entire message. But again, being the shy and awkward 14-year-old that I was, I told him yes, mistake number two. He was ecstatic. He asked to call me that night and asked for my phone number, and I gave it to him, mistake number three. He called me later that night, and I learned a lot of things that I did not want to know. One of the major things was that this guy was a massive crybaby. I'm not trying to say that men who cry are weak, but this guy would cry at everything and would always play the victim. Felt like all his friends didn't like him? Cry. No girl other than me would love him? Cry. Teacher failed all of his assignments, even though he openly admitted he didn't want to do any of the work? Cry. The list goes on, but I'll get to more things later. I also learned that night that he had a foot fetish, and now that I was his girlfriend, he was going to do so many things to my feet. Again, not trying to shame anyone, but as a 14-year-old who didn't like showing off any part of my body, I was uncomfortable. And when I went silent for a little bit, guess what he did? Cry because I thought he was a freak. His words, not mine. I told him no, I didn't think that, though I was starting to, and he instantly cheered up. He continued to call me every night, and the conversations were usually the same as the first night he called until the night of the dance. At the dance, he mentioned he never had his first kiss and how sad it was. I already had my first kiss at this point, and I'm so glad he wasn't it. I kissed him at the dance just to get it over with. However, throughout the night, he would try to kiss me even more and even tried shoving his tongue in my mouth. It got so bad that a teacher had to pull us apart. Of course, he goes off to sulk and cry. After the dance, I got a text from him saying how magical I made the night for him, that the kiss was delicious, not exaggerating, and how the stupid teacher didn't understand our love again, not exaggerating. I was feeling pretty sick to my stomach at this point and wanted to break up with this guy, but I stayed a little bit longer. Mistake number four. 2 days later, he asked me out on a date to the movies. Stupidly, I said yes, and he asked if one of his best friends could come and if I could bring one of my best friends since his friend found her attractive and wanted her to be his girlfriend. I told both of them no because he wasn't her type, and in all honesty, she hated him. They kept pushing me to bring her, but I kept telling them no. His best friend called me a killjoy cunt, and he did his usual thing of crying because he didn't get what he wanted. We went to see the Lorax that night, and his friend sat behind us. The second the lights went out, he turned my head and started kissing me and pushing his tongue into my mouth. I tried to push him away because I was not going to let him do that to me the entire movie. Again, his friend was right behind us, and he kept trying to kiss me. The movie ended, and when I got home, he sent me a text saying he was depressed and that a picture of my feet would make him feel better. I told him no, and he threatened to kill himself and said it would be all my fault because I didn't send him a photo. Horrified at how fast he snapped, I sent him a photo. The next night, he asked if I had been naughty lately. Knowing where this was leading, I told him no. He then started crying about how I was cheating on him and that I had been being naughty with other people. And again, he threatened to kill himself. I tried to calm him down by telling him that I was a virgin and was not a sexual person at all. He suddenly, as if on a dime, stopped his fit and asked me if we could just completely forget about what had just happened. I tried telling him that what he did was incredibly inappropriate and was about to tell him to leave me alone, but he pulled the victim card again and started crying. During the crying, he asked for another picture of my feet to calm him down. Scared he was going to snap again, I sent him another picture. This continued for a few more days. He would try and message me whenever I was busy, like at school, babysitting, volunteer work, etc., accuse me of cheating, tell him what was going on, him saying sorry and playing the victim, and asking for pictures of my feet to calm him down. I eventually had enough, and after 2 weeks of dating him, I broke off the relationship. He cried, of course, and begged that we at least stay friends. The school year was ending, and he said he was transferring to a new school, so I figured I would never see him again. Wrong. At the beginning of the school year, he would message me, and when I didn't respond, he would cry and threaten to kill himself. After a while, I just started to ignore the messages and threatened to call the police if he didn't stop messaging me. Thought he would have stopped after that, right? Wrong. Every year, up until I turned 21, he would message me random things at random times. Examples. Hey, my friend, we're friends, right? Can you send me a pic of your feet? I miss you. I'll leave you alone if you want me to. I'm pathetic, aren't I? And so much more. Each time, I ignored him and finally blocked him on every platform he tried to contact me on. Fast forward to 21, I'm in college a ways away from my town and from him and have a boyfriend. I get a notification from Instagram saying he started following my profile. I quickly block him, and not even 5 minutes later, I get a message from Facebook from a random profile I didn't know. The message read, "Why did you block me on Instagram?" I lost it. I sent him a long message telling him if he contacted me in any way, shape, or form, I would get a restraining order, and told him how damaging that would be to his reputation and his future career. Again, he played the victim and told me that he couldn't believe he fell for a liberal bitch like me and to never contact him again. Never heard from him again, and good riddance. A few months later, I got a message from a girl who used to date him as well. She told me he used to threaten to kill himself and cry if she told him she ever left him. I was at the local grocery store I visit weekly to shop for food. I normally spend $100 to $200 a week on food for myself and my family, so I always leave with a full cart. I'm standing in the checkout line, minding my own business, when a tall man, I guess early 40s, approached me and complimented my hair. "Your hair is gorgeous," loud enough for everyone within a 20-foot radius to hear. Now, I appreciate a compliment as much as the next person, but it was a little obnoxious to say the least. I thanked him politely and redirected my attention to my cart, where I awkwardly started organizing the items in hopes that the 15 pairs of eyes now staring in my direction would look elsewhere. Unfortunately, Loudmouth didn't take the hint. He started asking rapid-fire questions and making statements, barely pausing for me to get a word in edgewise before the next sentence would spill out of his mouth. This is when it gets really awkward, as if it wasn't weird enough. He asked if I want to go out with him sometime, maybe tonight after I put my groceries away. He could come to my house and help me put groceries away, and then we could leave from there. I told him I didn't think my boyfriend would appreciate that, and he got angry. I was freaked out at this point, and everyone was still staring. After I rejected his offer, his mood changed so fast it was like a light switch got flipped, and the compliments turned into nasty insults and curses. Mind you, this guy didn't have a cart or anything in his hand to buy. He was kind of standing off to the side, leaning on one of the drink refrigerator displays. Thankfully, a gentleman who was in an aisle within my sight, who presumably heard the whole thing, came up behind us and asked him if he was in line. Loudmouth said no. The gentleman promptly told him he was being inappropriate, loud, and needed to buzz off. To my surprise, Loudmouth stepped aside with one final insult and stomped out of the store. I thanked the gentleman, and we continued waiting in line, me with an entire week of groceries, and him with a bottle of water. I offered to let him go in front of me, and he declined, saying that he wasn't in a rush. It was really like one of those scenes in a movie where the nice tough guy saves the girl from the jackass. Even so, I was afraid Loudmouth would be waiting outside, so I asked the cashier to call one of her coworkers to walk me to my car. The gentleman insisted that he would be happy to escort me to my car, and I accepted. But as I stood there watching the cashier ring my items, I was overcome by this sick feeling like I was going to vomit everywhere. I decided it was just my nerves, as I have issues with anxiety, and this reaction is pretty normal. It typically passes within a few minutes once I mentally talk myself down, but for fear of further embarrassment, this time in the form of projectile vomiting in the middle of a grocery store, I hurriedly paid and took a seat on a bench close by. I told the gentleman never mind, and that I was a little freaked out, so I was going to call my boyfriend to come pick me up instead. We get the car later. I didn't care. I just wanted to make it home in one piece. He told me to have a nice day and walked out the door. Hand to God, as soon as he walked out of the building, I felt normal again. Still blaming my anxiety, I felt sort of silly, but I'd already called my boyfriend. So I stood up and pushed my cart over to the window to watch for my ride, just in time to see a junky white SUV drive by with freaking wait for it. The gentleman in the passenger seat and loudmouth in the driver's seat. I about lost it. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. The gentleman who had come to my rescue was actually in cahoots with the obnoxious guy. I quickly ducked out of sight, my heart pounding in my chest. I couldn't believe I had almost fallen for their act. They were working together, and who knows what they had planned. I immediately called my boyfriend again, explaining the situation and urging him to hurry. I felt a chill run down my spine as I peeked out the window, scanning the parking lot for any sign of the white SUV. Every minute felt like an eternity as I anxiously waited for my boyfriend to arrive. When he finally pulled up, I rushed out to meet him, my cart full of groceries in tow. My boyfriend could see the fear in my eyes and quickly helped me load the groceries into the car. I glanced around nervously, half expecting the two men to reappear at any moment. As we drove away, I recounted the entire ordeal to my boyfriend. He was equally shocked and angry, but relieved that I was safe. We decided to report the incident to the grocery store management and the local authorities, providing them with descriptions of the two men and the white SUV. The experience left me shaken and more cautious. I realized how easily I could have been lured into a dangerous situation. From that day on, I vowed to be more vigilant and to trust my instincts when something felt off. Looking back, I'm grateful for my anxiety that day. It may have been uncomfortable, but it ultimately kept me safe. The lesson I learned was invaluable. Always be aware of your surroundings and never underestimate the lengths some people will go to deceive and manipulate.